one and all. I hope all are having a fabulous day. And to add on, we have a very vibrant personality here with us as our guest speaker. He's a genius who stood second in the civil service exam. He's a prodigy who subconsciously started preparing for civil service exam from class 6. And he became financially independent right from class 9. He did his BSc in biochemistry from Sri Venkateshwara College, DU, and MBA in finance from Lal Bahadur Shastri Institute of Management, Delhi. He has worked with reputed firms like KPMG and has 5 years of corporate experience. He proudly claims that civil service is his true calling and just wanted to give his best to the country. Today, he is here with us to give insight into goal settings of life. And adage goes like this: when you work on little things, big things happen. Here, we have a man of achievements to share greatness of little things which he did. Now, I humbly request you all to put your hands together for Mr. Munish Sharma. May I now request Ms. Pooja Jaglan to present a bouquet to the chief guest.
Am I audible? Okay, yeah, I am. Alright, so it gives me immense pleasure to be sitting adjacent to Professor Pankaj Priya. So we all have our favorites, throughout our academic career, professional career. So if I can recall one of my favorite teachers throughout my entire journey, right from the school days to college and to post-graduation, so Pankaj sir is one of them. So those of you who would have interacted, who would be like, who would have had a chance to study under his supervision would know what I'm talking about. So I still remember the first day I had in his class, because we were not as fortunate during our Marketing Management 1 course. We were taught by some other professor, and we were cramming Kotler day in and day out. So in the second trimester, he came to our class, and out of like 60 students, he chose me, and he asked me to stand up and was like, "Why are you wearing this shirt, Mr. Sharma?" So I was like, "Okay, why me of all these people? There are other people, other bright people sitting over here. Even those could be asked that question." So then he explained to us the difference between needs, desires, and wants, and that stayed with me. So I was telling this to your director, Rishikesh, a colleague of yours, a classmate of yours. He chaperoned me, unfortunately, from my home to here. I think I was grown enough to come here on my own, and he had to wait a lot. And he was telling me how your director is very fond of art and culture. That's a very good thing. I think that India is such a multi-ethnic, multicultural, multilinguistic country, and we all are very fortunate that we have been a part of this great nation. And to just get yourself imbibed in this multifaceted culture, it's a pleasure, and you guys are fortunate enough that you have a director who promotes these things. So there may be times when you could not be very good academically, and MBA is not really about a course where you need to get good grades. It's about exploring the world around you. So when you will be working in corporate, you would be working under really intelligent people. There are all kinds of people, but when at the end of the year appraisals are given, so they really take into account these things as well. Are you aware of the world around you? Do you have keen interest in culture? For instance, I was working at KPMG. So 90% of the senior management over there was Bengalis, and you know how Bengalis are with their taste for art and culture. So these things are really appreciated. All these companies nowadays, they follow 3x3 metrics of performance appraisal. They see what kind of values you have and what kind of performance you are giving. So you may be low on performance but high on values, you would still get a good rating. And these things like culture and values, they have a synergistic and symbiotic relationship with each other. If you listen to good music, if you soak yourself in good art, if you start appreciating these things, you'll start appreciating small things in life. You'll end up being a good person as well. Alright, I was asked to speak to you guys about how goal setting is done. Personally, even I have read that Peter Drucker's framework, SMART, specific, measurable, and all that. I don't really remember that. But I would tell you a few things which I think they have helped me in my life. Right from the beginning, from my very childhood days, we had to leave Kashmir when the riots started over there in 1990. And from that moment on, when we came to Delhi, and I saw my parents struggling, and after some point of time, my mother was almost a single parent to me. So from the very childhood days, I had this thing clear to me that the world is very Darwinian. It's about the struggle for existence, survival of the fittest. So I haven't really performed equally good on all parameters. For instance, my health has taken a back seat. Though I do not suffer from any disease or something, but I need to lose quite a few kgs. So, but there were other things. For instance, when I was in class 9, I started giving tuitions because I identified quite early that I was good in all subjects, but not as good in math. And we had very good teachers teaching us, but sometimes it so happens that irrespective of the externalities, the subject does not appeal to you. So that was the case with me in maths as well. So when I was in 9th standard, I started teaching kids from class 6, 7, 8. I was earning money as well, and plus the good thing about, the beauty about teaching is when you start teaching someone, your way of looking at things, it improves. It takes a lot of homework to really teach someone in a good way. So that was it. After I came to class 12, I had taken science with medicine, but in class 12 my father passed away while I was writing my board exams. So all of a sudden, my mom had developed paralysis. She had a condition called rheumatoid heart disease. One of her valves was leaking and the other was really precarious. So I had to make a choice. If I wanted to, I had got rank 49 in All India PMT, but had I gone for an admission at Maulana Azad Medical College, I would not have continued giving tuitions, right? I was, at that time when I had just finished with my 12th, at that time in 2003, I was earning 15 to 20,000 a month, which was quite a good sum. So I made a choice that I did not want to continue with that. I pursued biochemistry honors instead because molecular biology and genetics, it was also very close to my heart. So even after my graduation, I had a standing offer from Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, US for PhD. But my mother's condition had worsened. And I had written CAT as well. I got 99.63 percentile in CAT. Still I did not go to any IIM because I knew that the end goal of mine was civil services. And I was equally good in all subjects, so with time the theory of large numbers and the law of averages catches up. You may not crack it in one go, like I did not, but in the second go I did, and did considerably well. So I had made a choice that I had to stay in Delhi. I could not crack FMS exam, it was a separate exam at that time. So I had options of institutes like IMT, it was a residential course, IMI, core and LBSIM. I went to LBSIM because the fee was very nominal at that time, 2.98 lakhs, which was quite manageable through my own as well, and my income had already shot up at that time, and I was earning 40 to 50,000 through tuitions only. I was teaching at institutes like Career Launcher, PT and all. Then I entered the corporate world, and after 2 years of MBA, I started my journey with a company called the Smart Cube. It's a really good place to work at. And once you start earning a lot of money, things become a little woozy for you. It became for me as well. Even I got disillusioned. For me also, the priority became to see the world, and I forgot for some time that my ultimate goal was civil services. But it's said that whatever is your true calling, it chases you infinitely. And it happened with me also. I was always a top performer at my company, always at the best of ratings. But I stopped getting the joy out of working after after some point of time. I worked for 5 years. When I was at KPMG, then it happened to me that at the end of the day, I was really contributing to a multinational company, I was contributing to their bottom line. I wasn't doing anything for my country. Having said that, even when I'm paying income taxes, I'm contributing something to my country, right? But I wanted to do something more. So that's when I thought that the time was right, and I had to start with my preparations. I wrote my first attempt in 2012, and at that time, the course pattern and the UPSC pattern was slightly different. You had two optionals. The focus was a lot on cramming. Now it has all changed. In my first attempt, I got 40 marks out of 300 in a paper, political science paper 2. And that paper was the best I wrote. I had law also as an optional. Law is not what I have majored in or I have studied, but I got good marks in law, essay, general studies, everything. I got 40 on 300 in political science too. I was crestfallen. And in interview also I got 135 out of 300. I thought that my interview went quite well because they mostly asked factual questions and I had answered all of them. But the interviews in government sector, especially UPSC, is quite different from your corporate interviews. In corporate interviews, you're supposed to be very smart, go-getter. You are supposed to be cunning as well. They like such people, but not in the government sector. So you really have to have this facade over you. You have to pretend that you are the best person to have ever walked on this earth. You need to be very humble. So I did that in my second attempt. So if you can see the pattern that you can err once, right? But you have that zeal to learn from your mistakes. So in my first round, I figured out that there's a particular way that UPSC functions. People had warned me that you don't have to be very smart when you go there. But I'm a scientist at heart. Until I see something happening, I do not believe it. So in my first attempt also in essay, I had got 113 out of 200, which is considered a good score. Anything above 50% is good. I had chosen topic science and religion, are they compatible? I was told that you should not go for such kind of vague topics. You're very lucky you have got such marks. You should not use flowery language, but it comes naturally to me. I cannot help but articulate in a flowery way. In my second attempt as well, I wasn't convinced. The scientist in me wasn't convinced that I should write a normal essay. I could have written on is science and technology panacea for growth? Is gross national happiness more important than GDP? But I chose a topic that you should be the change you want to see in the world. A quote by Mahatma Gandhi. So this time I got 130 or 250, again more than 50%. But the percentage of marks in essay has come down from 56% to 52%. Luckily, my marks in other subjects and interview were good enough, so it kind of made up for that. But had I written essay on a more conventional topic, I would have even got the first rank. So what I'm trying to tell you is that sometimes, in fact most of the times, we should listen to the people. We all have our own journey, our own struggle, but you should listen to what experienced people say. Alright, so many people told me that essay you should attempt in a given way. I still did not listen. And I'm not sure if I write my next attempt, if I had to, I would have heard. Because we all come with our own follies. We all have our mistakes and things like that in life. But in this attempt in interview, as I said, that I went with a facade. I never argued with anything. For instance, the first question I was asked in interview was that cooking is one of your hobbies. Tell me synonyms for boiling. So boiling as a verb does not really have synonyms. But I said, ma'am, are you asking me about the processes where something similar to boiling is involved? The board member said, no, I want to know the synonyms of boiling. So I said, poaching, blanching, simmering, stuff like that. 5 words I said. So she opened her diary and said 25 words. And none of them meant boiling. I could have argued that would have set the tone for the rest of my interview. I would not have got 204 and 275 in interview. So you need to learn that sometimes it will happen in your corporate career also, right? You would see that people who are your bosses, they are not really up to the mark. There would be moments when you think that you are the eponymous Joan of Arc. You are the most righteous person on this earth. And here your boss is trying to tell you something which is not correct. But then that's life, right? Like I said, the world is Darwinian. So the next question in interview was, it was about my interest in music. So I had written in my detailed application form that I like to listen to melody-based music. So they said, why melody-based music? Why not some other form of music? So I said that I just cannot connect to electronic dance-based music, and though my cousins and my younger brother does tell me, they do tell me about different genres of music, but classical music is what I like the most. The next question was, why is Lata Mangeshkar called the queen of melody and not someone like, say, Asha Bhosle or Shreya Ghoshal from recent singers? I answered that. But the interview was very purposive and discussion oriented. From one answer of mine, they came up with another question. Then they asked me a lot of questions on management as well. They asked me about the BCG model, and none of the people sitting over there had management background. So I was surprised that how come they asked me, they asked me about this thing. They asked me the full form of Amul. I had forgotten it that time, so I came up with Anand Milk Union, something like that. They asked me the full form of Noida because my first company was Smart Cube. It was in Noida. It's a good habit in life to be very curious. So I keep on googling things. I keep on taking snapshots on my phone of things which I think that are interesting enough and to be made notes of. I keep on preparing a diary. Keep on noting interesting things. And Noida also, I remember when I had joined Smart Cube. I had Googled Smart Cube, I had Googled Noida. I knew it was New Okhla Industrial Development Area, but somehow it skipped my mind. So, but good thing about civil services interview is not a test of your knowledge, it's a test of your personality. To all the questions that are asked you can say you do not know, and you can still get very good marks. A friend of mine, she got 220, and she could not answer most of the questions. So goal setting in life is something which you have to take in your stride. We all are different people. As I said, we all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses. So you need to see what works best for you. But still, you should not get disillusioned. You should not, think that you will do whatever you want to. You should learn from others, learn from the mistakes of others. You should learn from more experienced people. And sometimes it really does not make sense to take the road less traveled. So, when there's an easier way out, you should do that. So right now, I don't think whatever I'm saying it makes much sense to you, because I don't think many of you would be writing civil services. Still, I would urge those of you who think that they can serve the nation in this way and through this channel to take up this exam. The exam has really changed and metamorphosized, and it's not as difficult as it used to be. It's very analytical in nature. They would ask you questions like why the cars these days are made up of fiber and not metal. So any person worth their salt who drives and who is into automobile would tell you that. And there would be questions, for instance, on economics, that economic honor students would also not be able to answer. So I read Peterson and Lewis at my time and Dominic Salvatore for microeconomics. I could answer that question. So the way they are looking at this exam is changing. They are trying to emulate French and American civil services. And you don't really have time in the exam to think over a question. You just have to write. It's like you're taking part in Miss World or Miss Universe. You have to, you're given less than a minute to think. You have to write 28 words per minute in the exam. So whatever you want to do in life, be very focused, be very sincere. You should have a sense of duty, discipline and devotion in you, ingrained in you. And you should not be disheartened by failures. You should not compare yourself with others. Unfortunately, we live in a world, Facebook generation we are. We keep comparing ourselves with people who are going to Hawaii for a trip or, Honolulu. But here I am sitting in Greater Noida doing this PGDM course. My life is not too happening. If you start doing that, it's a vicious circle. It's a quagmire of sorts, and you would not be able to extricate yourself out of that situation. So, see if you're a better person today than you yesterday were, and have you really improved as a person? At this stage of life, you would be very materialistic, but that Maslow's need hierarchy, that is for real. There would come a point of time in your life when you would know that self-actualization is for real. You would not be happy with money. I wasn't. KPMG was offering me a salary of £8,000 per month, which is very astronomical, some at UK. I didn't want to go there. That's not my calling. I see my cousins working there, toiling very hard. They just party on the weekend, they get drunk, and that's a life to waste. So, if you have any questions, I would be most happy to answer them.
Let's give it. Hold on. Mike, please. And Mike. aspiring student who wants to write the UPSC exam after I complete my graduation. I'm right now studying English and Political Science in my school, in my college. So
Which college do you go to?
I go to Deshbandi College
Okay.
in Delhi University.
Okay.
I just wanted to take your opinion. Which subject should I use for my optional subject, because we just have to choose one
Yeah.
right now. And my second question is the GK part.
Mhm.
We are giving more importance to the general knowledge now, as per the, I checked there are 4 papers for the general knowledge.
Yes.
So I just want to ask that how should I do GK is a subject which does not
Yeah.
get over how much ever you study. So I just want to ask that how should I prepare for the general knowledge, because it is so wide and so wide topics.
Thank you for your question. I'll take it in parts. The first question you had was about the optional. So you should take an option which you think you can really sustain, because UPSC is a long kind of journey. Means there are very few people, lucky people, who can crack the exam in 1 year. But yeah, optional should be something which you feel comfortable in. I opted for political science and law in my first attempt because my graduation subject biochemistry does not really feature in the UPSC list. Management is a very vast subject. In 2 years of PGDM, you are not taught as many things as the UPSC expects from you. So you should look up at previous year papers. I looked up at management papers, so I saw it coming that I could fail it very easily, because they would ask you one question for 40 marks on Black-Scholes model. If you were not comfortable with that formula while you prepare for the exam, you could fail. So political science I took because it overlaps a lot with general studies. You need to study about organizations like TRIPS, TRIMS, WTO, IMF, Constitution of India, India's freedom struggle. Part is also there. Then you get to read about people like Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli. So I think every person worth their salt should read about them. Otherwise, what's the meaning to the life? So that helps you in GS paper as well. And coming to the optionals and the part that GK is so vast, the time has now passed when they would ask you what is the depth of Mariana Trench. They don't ask those silly questions anymore. They would ask you that in winters, at places where temperature goes to minus 20 degrees Celsius, aquatic life continues. Because water has a property that its maximum density is at 4 degrees Celsius. It starts freezing from above, and below it remains in the liquid format. So those kind of answers they look forward to. So the paper is very analytical now. In fact, people who are good at math, they ask class 10th level math. The paper's difficulty level is not even 1% of CAT level, right? So in prelim exam there are 2 papers. Paper 2 is CSAT. They ask mental ability, mathematics and English in that. In paper 1 they ask history, geography, constitution, economics, science and technology and current affairs. In paper 1, no matter what you do, you cannot get more than 100 out of 200. I attempted all the questions, I got 113. In paper 2, engineers especially, the guys from IITs and IIMs, they get 180 very easily. I got 183. So the cutoff was 241, combination of 2 papers. It's very achievable. If I randomly select 10 people from you guys and ask you to write UPSC prelim exam, 3 or 4 will clear it, without any preparation. Because paper 1 is so tricky in the sense, if you have read about Buddhism and Jainism, everything about it, the question that would come in the exam is that there is a particular statue of Buddha where his mudra of sitting is slightly different from the other mudras. He's sitting like this. So what does that mean? You have not looked at that statue, you haven't read about that in any book. So you have to take reasonable guesses. So that's how it works. And plus they ask very basic questions. For instance, if you have read about Cripps mission, cabinet mission, you should know what was it for. You should know why were the freedom fighters opposing Rowlatt Act, and what was not good with Ilbert Bill. So those kind of questions. They won't ask you who out of these was born, in the 15th century. They don't ask those questions anymore because they don't really serve the purpose. Now the breed of bureaucrats that we had in the last 20-30 years, many of them were very corrupt. Right? Those who were not, they were made to face the music. So they are warming up to it. They are waking up and smelling the coffee. So in mains exam also, paper 1 is for history, geography, paper 2 is for constitution and economics, paper 3 is for science and technology and international relations, Paper 4, I'm very happy about it, that it's about ethics. Ethics is something you cannot learn. You are either born with it or you are not. They'll ask you many questions. They will either give you 0 or 4-5 marks out of 10, because you would not have a picture perfect answer for any question. If you would have, they may even give you marks. I had 111 marks in ethics paper out of 120, out of 250, and not many people could score more than 80. So it's good that they are changing the system. So there were quotes by various famous people, and the quotes were really straightforward. Even if you had not heard about them, you could write something or the other about them. There were case studies. It's very beneficial for people who have been into MBA kind of environment. Our bread and butter is through case studies. So the optional choice is up to you. I took up law even if I was not trained in law, because science students do really well in law because it's very analytical. You don't have to cram sections, articles, anything like that. For instance, if I tell you what is theft, theft is when with dishonest intention you take someone's property and you move it out of their possession, and this is theft. There are 4 components to it. I cannot, if I go and start cutting a tree, it's not theft until it is totally removed from the stem is totally removed and I try to take it out. If I take your pen and put it in my pocket, it's a theft. Though it's a trifle according to IPC, Indian Penal Code, I would not be punished so heavily for it, but it's still a theft. So law is a very good paper in the sense that paper 1 composes of constitution and international law. Paper 2 is about mercantile law and torts, IPC. So law is something which I tell people who, irrespective of their backgrounds, whether they are from science or commerce, they can do it really easily. And I've seen that people from the best law colleges in India, NALSA, NLSIU, they have got lesser marks than me in both the attempts of law. There's just one girl whose rank is 6, she got 263, I got 251. That too because in paper 2 you need to cram a bit, I did not cram. I did not know any case. So in one question I knew a case, I did not write because I thought that it would really reflect poorly on me. I haven't written any case in any question, I would not write in that as well. So does that answer your question? There are good subjects like philosophy, sociology. People who are very comfortable with mugging up, they can go for botany and zoology as well. A zoology guy has got 294 out of 500 this year. People are taking economics as well. But the favorite subjects of yours, like public administration, political science, people are not getting marked nicely in those subjects now. I don't know why. Maybe because a lot of ready-made material is available in the market. People are mugging that up, and UPSC does not like that. They don't like people who can cram up and come up with answers. They hate patterns. So they don't even want you to read a book on culture. They won't ask you difference between Kathakali and Kathak anymore, because that you can read in your book. But they asked us a question about the role of Bansuri in the way Krishna is depicted in Indian art. Now you have to really think within 5 minutes and write that answer for 10 marks. Right? Or they would ask you about some festivals in Arunachal Pradesh, tribal festivals which nobody would know about. So you would write that like all tribals, they would worship nature, they would dance, they would make merry and all. And everyone would get 2 on 10 in that question. It's a level playing field. It's not a good sign if you do not have any questions. So we would not let Pankaj sir go out of our class even after 15 minutes of class.
Can you put management civil service exam like medical side, like if you're going in, if you want to go in that field, why are you doing management? So
I think the management course tells you how to bluff. I did not know so many answers, I still wrote them. Because that's what you do in your MBA, right? Within 3 months in a subject, you cannot know everything. And your professors really set very tough papers. Our professors used to do. So Pankaj sir set a marketing paper, we were like looking here and there, was it really a marketing paper? So you get accustomed doing that. And management, see, a lot of bad press is given to management as a course. but you will see a noticeable difference within you after like 4-5 years, and you would be thankful that you took up PGDM or MBA as a course.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Hello sir,
Yes.
my name is Chandan Chopra and I have done my Bachelor of Business Administration.
Ranjan Chopra.
Chandan Chopra.
Okay.
And I have done my Bachelor of Business Administration as a graduation. So at this time I want to enter into the supply chain business as an operation, but I don't belong to engineering field. So I want your advice, should I enter into this?
It will be tough.
Tough for me.
Yes. I have a friend of mine from Delhi College of Engineering. It's DTU now. He worked at SmartQ for 3 years, and now he has got a fully funded offer from one of the best B schools in the US for supply chain management, 100% scholarship. But he is an engineer. Engineering is not, it's not an easy course. Obviously, everyone passes by just studying for 1 or 2 days. The same happens in MBA also. There will be a few things which would differentiate between an engineer going into supply chain management and you. But if you are very good mathematically, if you can work on your numerical skills, quantitative skills, then maybe yes. I know a couple of people who did their BCom honors and they are doing good in supply chain domain. But when you look up at somebody's LinkedIn, you do not know whether they landed up with those jobs on their own merit or through contacts.
So it would be difficult for me to enter into this.
I would not dissuade you, but I would say that yeah, it's difficult. It's not an easy path.
Thank you.
So my name is Tejasvi. I want to ask you that in the Hindu newspaper, there was an article about you. And they said that you just used to read newspaper and you got such a good rank. So is it really enough for cracking an exam like that?
See, traditional topics like history, geography, I was always good at because I always got full marks in social studies during my school days. I was equally good in all subjects, but as it happens, if you get more than 95%, your parents ultimately tell you to go for science. And since I wasn't bad in science, I took up sciences, or I would have studied social sciences and Sanskrit. But it did not take me much time to brush up these subjects. But for other people who are not very well versed with these subjects, they will need time. So I used to read newspaper not just because I was preparing for the exam. I was enjoying the journey. I like to be enlightened with the fact that I was reading newspaper for my own pleasure. So not just the physical newspaper. I just did not read the Hindu. The press has a bad habit of putting words in your mouth. I said that my mother rose me, she had a single-handed role in raising me up. So they said that I had a single mother. So that had a different meaning altogether. Also, every other newspaper, even Punjab Khetri said that I used to read their newspaper. So can you believe that? So yeah, but I have BBC, Al Jazeera, Dawn, because I want to know what Pakistanis think about us, and Dawn is a good newspaper. New York Times, Hindu, Indian Express, Times of India, Hindustan Times on my phone. All these applications. So I have this obsessive compulsive disorder to just keep going through news and reading about articles. I do not refer to sports news with as much interest as I refer to the science news, but I have this habit and it has helped me a lot. I did not make notes. There are people who would make notes. And now a lot of material is available right now in the market that would to an extent do away with the needs to make notes. But what I would do is, if I'm reading an newspaper application, I take screenshots. I would use technology to my advantage. At the end of the day, I would have 40 to 50 screenshots. Out of those screenshots, I would take notes. I would prepare maybe 5-6 liner notes every day. That was the daily routine. So that helped me because along with job, it's slightly difficult to manage UPSC. But you do not work 8 hours a day in the office. I would work like 3 to 4 hours, but I would work sincerely. Rest of the time, while being in the cab, while being on the move, I would try to make good use of technology. There's an application called Pocket on Android as well as iPhone. You can share good articles on that. There's a user community. Suppose 5 friends, they make a group on it. If anyone shares an article, it will go to everyone. So I had a close-knit circle of my friends. We would share information like this. Yes, sir.
I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
And the first question is related to your journey, personal journey. And you have reached to this target after passing through a lot of difficulties, challenges, and adversities. The first question is whether adversity has played any role in your success to have high level of motivation. When people pass through adversity, either they will be depressed or their morale will be too high to overcome all the adversity. The first question is, what role has been played by adversity in your life? Second, had you not been successful in civil services, what would have you done?
So to answer the second question first, because that's an easier one. Had I not got through civil services, I would have probably pursued PhD, because I had an offer from Wharton School of Business for pursuing PhD in strategic management. I would have maybe again applied to Harvard and Wharton or INSEAD. I would have done that because I love teaching. I would not have surely continued with the corporate life. It does not appeal to me. The first one, does adversity make you strong? I think it varies from person to person. It makes criminals out of innocent souls. But there's a saying in Hindi, कहते हैं कि आग में से ही निकल के सोना कुंदन बनता है, something like that. So I believe in that. I think had I been served everything on platter, had I born with a silver spoon, I would have never given tuitions to people. My horizons, the way I think about various subjects, happenings in the world, they would not have broadened. I would have lived in a shell. Or, I would still be a 90-95%er, but with limited opinion, with limited thinking. So I still remember when I was doing my MBA, I was giving tuition to a guy who was doing BSc Honors Statistics, because I had done my Levin and Rubin in MBA properly. So I knew more stats than that guy. So it certainly helps you. While I was doing my BSc Honors Biochemistry, my brother is 1 year younger to me, and he was doing BCom. At that time, accountancy is something I loathed. But after I read a book called Cross and Power, Needles and all, I started enjoying it. So I used to teach him economics, statistics, all the BCom subjects. So when I was doing MBA, things were relatively easier for me. So adversities, they give you a choice. They give you a choice to either be a star or to fade into oblivion. The choice is yours, what you want to do.
Good morning, sir.
Use mic, please.
Hello. Good morning, sir. My name is Vikas Jain. I want to ask that, is it possible to prepare for civil service exams while working in some company? I mean, how to prepare for your civil service exams while working?
You need to be very disciplined first of all. It means you will need to have lesser time out with your friends. So I would not have much time out with my friends. I would watch a movie every week because I'm a big movie freak. I just cannot help but watch movies. Sometimes I would even watch 4 movies a week. So that was my time. I read a lot of books. So I have this Kindle with me. I keep on buying stuff on it and reading that. That helps also. I think watching movies also enlightens you in a way that no other media can do. So that has helped. I'll give you an example. I had Hindi as an optional during my class 10th exam. My Hindi is good, but since I had studied only till class 10th, I had difficulty deciding on what essay I would write. So in course B, they asked very easy Hindi. So we had an essay on Varsha Ritu, and everyone knows Varsha Ritu में बारिश होती है, बच्चे नाव चलाते हैं, मानसून से क्या होता है, but what else? You have to write 500 words. So I use that घनन घनन घिर घिराए बदरा घन घन घोर काले छाए बदरा. I remember that song. So that's how you need to combine things. When you are watching The Pianist, you would know what really happened during Holocaust. And recently I watched that X-Men movie. X-Men Origins, what was the name? I've forgotten the name. Days of the Future Past, yeah. So in that movie, they had shown Vietnam War. That is one of the topics in UPSC. So in that they showed that Vietnamese side had gone to Paris for a peace accord, which is a historical fact. It's not mentioned in the NCRT. It's not in any of the UPSC books. But UPSC picks stuff like that. In my interview last year, I was asked about Lincoln. I was fluxed because at that time world history was not a part of the syllabus. But Abraham Lincoln, that movie had released. They had asked a question on Natalie Portman a few years ago because she had come up with that Oscar-winning movie Black Swan. They had asked a question on Swarnalata like 4-5 years ago. She was a very celebrated singer down south. She sang all the songs in the Tamil version of New Mughal e Azam, the colored version, on her own. It's a difficult thing because that song in that Qawwali in Mughal e Azam that Shamshad Begum and Lata Mangeshkar had sung, it's very difficult for one person to sing that. She had sung that. About S. Janaki, Chitra, I was asked questions. So cinema on things like these, they are very much a part of your life. So when you are preparing for civil services, do not think that you are doing a service for yourself or for the country. Do not think any of that. It also depends a lot on the kind of office you have. There are grilling offices where you're supposed to work 12 hours a day. Then it would not make a sense to make a fool out of yourself. If you think that you're financially endowed enough and if you can take up an easier job, maybe you're getting paid 70,000-80,000 in your current job, you would be happy with 40,000 also. You are ready to let go of that opportunity. You are ready to avail of that opportunity cost. So you can do that, but it will depend on the kind of job you land up with. At KPMG, the atmosphere was very chilled out. I told you I could complete my work in 3-4 hours. My bosses were very happy with me. Though I was not a bomb, but I had inclination for music. Maybe with that, they had that soft corner. So I wasn't given tough assignments. That worked. Yeah.
You had faced 2 interviews of UPSC now. So I just wanted to know from you that the person sitting on that side of the table, they had their own experiences. I had a personal experience when I was just 19 years old and the interviewer was asking that you are so young, and I was giving the interview for Institute of Mass Communication. And they said, how can you be a journalism being such a young lady and you have not faced that much in life, your parents have given something to you, offered good education and other things. That I could make out it later on that it was a stereotype that they carried, that a journalist should have suffered a lot before being a true journalist, and especially Hindi Patrikar would have suffered a lot of moving barefoot or with a sleeper in the roads so that he or she could understand the reality. Does this stereotype is there in the minds of panelists sitting in the interviews of UPSC that a person should have suffered a lot before being a true bureaucrat or before getting the chance to be selected in such services?
No, ma'am, I don't think they think anything of that sort. They try to be non-biased, but like us, they are also humans. So I would tell you an example. A friend of mine, she got 210 out of 300 in her last attempt. She got income tax. This year she has got 124 out of 275. So what does the government want to say? That in 1 year they have ruined the personality of that lady. In the personality interview they have given lesser marks. Last year I got 135, now I have got 204. So, but I'm still the same person. I do not see many changes in myself, but yes, I tried to project something I wasn't. So I just learned from that experience. But they don't give two hoots to the kind of background you have come from. They don't have preconceived notions for people from Hindi medium. For instance, I studied till 6th class in Hindi medium. One of the best schools in India, Sardar Patel Vidyalaya, they teach in Hindi medium till class 6. So they don't think all of that, but yes, they may have their biases at times. There are people whose father is an IAS officer, mother is in IFS, and that person is appearing for the first time in UPSC, and even she is cracking the exam. So he or she would not have witnessed those kind of hardships. Still, they are getting selected. So I think they don't make it a negative for you if you haven't seen hardships, but they value people who have come from the interiors of the country. They have risen through the ranks and they have done well in the life. So maybe some of the panels would have a soft corner. For instance, there's a panel right now. The lady who heads it, I cannot say her name properly. She's a Naga, and I've seen that she gives good marks to generally women, because in our country there cannot be a greater sin than to be a woman, illiterate, poor, and to belong to a minority, like to belong to a scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. you need to face a lot of hardships in life. So if she is doing that, I think that's a commendable thing. I myself as a person, I'm not opposed to reservation. I believe in affirmative action. So I'm opting for Haryana. So I'm a very stable person. I like stability. Had I opted for Agmut, which is the cadre in which Delhi also comes, I would have to go through 7 union territories, Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram and Goa. I cannot see myself travelling that entire length and breadth of India. So that makes you compromise with your family life as well. And Haryana is very close to my heart because my mom is from, after coming from Kashmir, and before that also she had lived in Haryana for quite some time. And Haryana, though it's a very prosperous state, it's a bad place for women. In some districts, the sex ratio is as poor as 500 women per 1,000 men. So they are doing very well, but I want to make these kind of changes there. But I'm not sure whether I would get it because there are very few seats available every year in Haryana. And last year, Sheena Agarwal, the topper, she was from Haryana, but she still could not get Haryana because that year there was only one seat for external quota, and that too for OBC. So this year, if they have one seat for external quota, for general quota, then I would go there. Otherwise, my second preference is Punjab. Punjab also has the similar blot on its face. They are importing girls from northeast now. You know, 3 people are being made to marry one single girl. Things like that are happening there. And youth, especially, they are not into drugs. Everyone is taking drugs over there. Third place is Rajasthan. It's a very easy cadre to work in. There's a very less of political independence. Fourth is Agmut. And fifth, I don't know why did I fill UP. Yeah. They make you fill entire choices, 22 choices. My 6th choice is West Bengal because I want to learn Rabindra Sangeet at some point of time in my life.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. I'm Vivek. I did my graduation from St. Joseph's College in Commerce, and I'm still preparing for UPSC. And I have opted public administration as my optional subject. I just want to know it is beneficial for me to go with that paper because at present the marks were not coming that much good in that paper.
See, the thing is, public administration is a good subject, but for quite some time there were people in the market, coaching institute walas, who had figured out, they had analyzed the paper for the last 10 years. They knew that this much would come in the exam, they were teaching that, students were only learning that. Everyone was writing similar kind of answers. So last year it happened, a friend of mine from IIT Delhi, he got only 70 marks out of 600 in per bag paper. So they have started doing this thing to public administration. If you can read the course on your own, public administration is a vast syllabus like management. So no more depending on coaching notes would help you. You have to broaden your horizons on your own. You'll have to read a lot of theories which are not there. For instance, they do not explicitly mention Mao in their syllabus. But still they have a right to ask what is the difference between public administration that was pioneered by Mao, Stalin, or what was advocated by Marx. They can ask that kind of question. They did exactly that last year and this year also. This year the best marks in PubAd I've heard is 234 out of 600, and that belongs to a guy who really is a PubAd guru. He goes through and reads from cover to cover the Journal of Indian Institute of Public Administration. But then if you cannot read that much, if you cannot study that much, I would actually advise against taking public administration. It's a difficult subject.
And so which is the beneficial paper?
How are you doing in your law paper?
Sir, I just like to study law because I think that I can do it.
So law is a very simple paper. If you want to do that, you can do that. And it's not a very difficult paper. But other papers I cannot think of. You did your graduation in what? Engineering?
So BCom in insurance.
BCom in insurance? Okay. So the commerce paper as well, you won't be able to handle because paper 1, they ask questions of CA level. Paper 2 is all about HR, organizational behavior, that's manageable. But that is also manageable if your expression, if your writing style is good. OB is thought to be an easy subject, it really isn't. So reading only Stephen P. Robbins won't suffice. So you need to see last year papers, and if you think that public administration is your true calling, you can go for that. But I personally haven't advised any of my cousins or my younger brother to go for that.
Bhargavi Sharma and I'm an engineer. And I have taken up history because I like reading it. Being an engineer, I did not took up those engineering subjects because I thought that I would not be able to do well in those subjects. So what do you think can be, done for history as a subject, or is it a bad choice?
You need to enjoy history first of all.
Actually, I like it, reading it just like storybooks. But apart from that, how do you need to prepare?
Have you
for
seen
it?
this year's paper, mains paper?
No, sir.
In paper one, they asked a lot of questions in ancient India, and in every question they asked for evidences. Evidences like there should be some, script, some Panduliki, Tamrilipi, all those things. They are not available in any book. I read R.S. Sharma for ancient India, Satish Chandra for medieval India, and Bipin Chandra for modern India. They are good books, but for history option you need to read more. And you need to do a lot of homework, and you need to write answers where you are analyzing. You need to soak up in history. You need to enjoy it. There's one good book by Sanjeev Sanyal, India, a Land of Seven Rivers. The book's name is a history of India's geography. It's a very good book, sir. That guy, he was a Rhodes Scholar, I guess, and he's working with Deutsche Bank as a chief strategy officer. Very young guy at this young age, he's doing so well. And he's not even from history. He's from economics background, and he has written a book with so many references to India's history. It's a very good book. But you should go through authors like Romila Thapar, Arjun Dev and all, who wrote during UPA government or earlier generations. In between, when the NDA government came, they kind of saffronized many questions, many portions in the history. So you need to be very careful while selecting the books, while selecting your readings. So I hope that UPSC continues to be an autonomous body, and those kind of questions are not asked. But if you go through Wikipedia about Indian history, it's a never-ending, never-ending part there, and it would just keep on throwing up links to you. And there's so many things available, but you need to restrict yourself. In history, you would never know everything in the question paper. But the questions that you know, if you can express yourself well in those questions, then that would make a true difference. For instance, this year in mains paper in general studies, they asked a question on the contribution of women, irrespective of their age, financial background and ethnicity, to India's freedom struggle. That's a very unlikely question but now see, in our society we are talking about women empowerment. We are saying that women are downtrodden, they are not being their correct share. We are demanding 33% share in parliament for women. So they want to know, are you perspicacious enough to think that what was the role of Indian women during India's freedom struggle? If you can think that, I had thought on that question earlier, because I was trying to think of, okay, there was Rani Gadun Neu, there was Kasturba Gandhi, Sarojini Naidu, Annie Besant, who else? I had even thought of a question, what was the role of foreigners in India's freedom struggle? Everybody knows about Derozio, Eo Hume. There was this guy called Verrier Elvin. I read it in a book by Ramachandra Guha, Makers of Modern India. So I think that has made differences to my answer, because in a 10-mark question, if you can come up with 10 names as well, it would really augur well for your answer. So history is a good subject, and thankfully for you, the focus has shifted from cramming up dates and political structures. They would never ask you to tell about the hierarchy of Peshwas and Bhonsles and all. They would never ask you such questions.
Hello sir, I am Isha. I did my graduation in psychology. I want to opt psychology as an optional subject. Which book should I look for?
Which college did you go to?
Kanpur University.
Okay. Psychology is a good paper, but books I do not know. I just read class 11th and 12th psychology books, NCERT books, and I don't think they are sufficient. Do you know about, I would ask you a simple question on psychology that would give me an insight into the kind of preparation you have. Do you know about gifted students?
No sir.
Yeah. So that's one topic in psychology that wasn't mentioned in UPSC, but they asked this question like 2-3 years ago, that how should gifted students be trained? So in India, everyone goes to similar kind of schools, but in places like Singapore and US, people who are prodigies, who are very good at math from earlier age, they are sent to different schools. It's generally thought that with diseases like autism, people are born with gifts as well. Have you seen that movie, My Name is Khan? Yeah, Shah Rukh Khan was very thought to be very intelligent in that movie, but he had some limitations. he was said to be suffering from Asperger's syndrome. Now the International Council of Psychologists has delimited that as a disease. They say that it's an autism-related disorder. So, in fact, it said that all of us behave in a certain way because we suffer from one kind of psychological disorder or the other. But the medical journal does not, classify each one of them. Psychology is a good subject. You should have good guidance. You should know how to write answers. So there are good coaching walas available for psychology because it's always been a popular subject. But do make it a point that you refer to good journals, articles and citations available on PubMed on your own for doing good in this paper. Traditional books won't suffice and one book won't do. For law, the good thing was that you don't really need to read books, you need to understand concept. For instance, if you have understood theft, and if you know one case, I just know one case, Kestin Chand, I always write that case in every answer. So that suffices. But subjects like psychology, they are very vast. In fact, UPSC asks only for 3 subjects, for engineering, medicine and law. They do not ask from honors level. Psychology, they ask honors level questions between bachelors and masters.
Yes, I am Professor Nagpal. I just want to know, with the changed pattern of exams, as you were just speaking of, can we expect a bureaucracy now with better moral values and ethics?
I think within 2-3 years, people could learn to circumvent these changes as well. Because this year, as the paper on ethics, it was quite unexpected. Many people could not do well in that paper.